This podcast is presented by Visa, a network working for everyone, overcoming the odds, rewriting the playbook, delivering under pressure. The MVPs of small business lead their teams to victory all year long. Visa is proud to provide playmakers everywhere with more tools to help grow their business and help them achieve even greater success. Because the more people we can empower, the more we all win. Visa, a network working for everyone. What's up? Welcome in week 2 preview episode of Hoge Jahns, the 1-0 Cincinnati Bengals, undefeated. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. Look at this firepower Cincinnati team coming to Soldier Field this week against the no longer vaunted Chicago Bears defense. At least if we're going to make week 1 overreactions, that is what this matchup looks like.
Yes, you're right on that. It's the Andy Dalton revenge game week. I'm sure everybody in Chicago is extremely excited about that storyline against the Bengals.
Yes, I'm sure it'll be just like his game against Cincinnati last year, where he gets an amazing ovation and there's signs in the stands that say, "Thank you, Andy." Just going to be the warmest welcome at Soldier Field.
It is not.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I'm with Justin Fields on that. He doesn't deserve that. If he's playing in the game and he's the quarterback, then the fans should be rooting for him. But at least to start the game. If he struggles, then I totally understand what's probably going to happen. And we'll see where this one goes. That's why we're here to break it all down for you as we get into week 2. Of course, my name's Adam Hoge. You can follow me on Twitter at Adam Hoge. He's Adam Jahns on Twitter at Adam Jahns, Jahns. You can read me at NBCSportsChicago.com. Got the film review up, which is, sort of a patchwork job this week since the NFL is apparently now going to be giving us the All-22 on Fridays, which is incredibly helpful. If you can't sense the sarcasm there, Johns' stuff is up on The Athletic. TheAthletic.com/Hoge Jahns is where you go to subscribe. And the presenting sponsor for today's episode of Hoge Jahns is Visa, a network working for everyone. All right, some things to dive into from Hallis Hall yesterday. Again, if you weren't with us last week, Matt Nagy no longer talks on Wednesdays. It's coordinator day. It's Andy Dalton day. And, well, where should we start?
I think we should just play the audio, Bill Lazor.
Okay. So here's an exchange with Bill Lazor yesterday, my colleague at NBCSportsChicago.com, Alex Shapiro. It's a little hard to hear his question here at the beginning. So if you can't hear it, it is essentially based on what you saw from Justin handling those 5 snaps against the Los Angeles Rams. Can he handle an entire series?
I would have said after the preseason that he's moving quickly and ready for whatever's thrown at him. So I don't think anything's changed.
If he's ready for it, then why isn't he getting those additional chances?
I think Matt's probably addressed what his philosophy is on the quarterback position. I don't think that's different. For me to answer that.
When you were in Cincinnati with Dalton, how did it? Sorry.
It's okay. I was laughing just more at.
When you were in Cincinnati with Dalton, how was he?
Pretty awkward there at the end, huh?
Yeah.
I think, well, let me start with this. Like, certain context is needed. Since we've covered Bill Lazor here with the Bears, he is routinely deferred to Matt Nagy, continuously calling it Matt Nagy's offense, even when it was his play calls that were being discussed. Like, Bill Lazor's in charge of the play calls. He's always called it Matt Nagy's offense, so he is always deferred to Matt Nagy. But I think the extra awkwardness of this exchange just shows you how delicate this now is in terms of the readiness of Justin Fields, like in the conversation about it, because I think the Bears want to try to stick with this plan, especially Matt Nagy. But I think everybody is just starting to realize or has realized that Justin Fields just might be ready to play a full game.
Yeah. That's exactly pretty much how I put it in my I started doing this column on Wednesdays on the coordinator, so you can kind of read the summary of everything you need to know from Bill Lazor, Sean Desai, and Chris Tabor yesterday. But, it started with this, and the headline is Bears are out of explanations for why Fields isn't the starter. I mean, it's just what it is, and it's fair questioning, tough questioning from Alex Shapiro there because it's the question everyone wants to know. Because you guys keep saying he's ready, they're not shying away from that at all. Nagy's done the same thing. So if he's handling everything so well, why doesn't he play more? And I also understand Bill's answer because it's clearly Matt Nagy's call. And now I will say, if you just read the transcript, it comes off as a little bit more like he's throwing Nagy under the bus.
He's not.
I didn't get the sense, and maybe hopefully hearing that audio helps with that. But it still goes back to the point that, here's the offense coordinator saying, I would have said after the preseason that he's ready for anything we throw at him. The Bears have admitted he's ready by making him the backup. And then by physically playing him, which the second they did that took him beyond the Patrick Mahomes plan because Patrick Mahomes didn't play.
Never did that.
So we're already past that point. The inevitable is coming.
I think what I would like to hear from Matt Nagy, we may hear it later today being Thursday, or later on Friday. I just think since we're at this point, if Nagy goes, you know what, guys? Yeah, we think he's ready, but we just want to give him a little bit more time.
But why?
I know, I get it, but just explain yourself. But why? That's the question outside, but I just think there needs to be more of a thorough explanation, and it's got to be it. We just want to give him a little bit more time to learn behind the scenes. We think he's close to ready, maybe even ready for a lot of stuff, but we don't see any harm in giving him 2 more weeks of learning behind the scenes. Now, they won't give you a timeline on things, but just articulate why he's not playing as much as Andy Dalton.
And that's where here's what I thought was interesting about Bill Lazor's answer. Because he could have gone into some of the things that Andy Dalton does well or did well against the Rams as like a reason why they're sticking with Andy. And he didn't do that. He was just like, essentially asked the head coach. But come on, you and I have been covering the NFL long enough. We've been covering the Bears long enough. And when the consensus outside the building is this united, and now nationally, I mean, it doesn't matter what show you turn on in the morning nationally, they are grilling the Bears. Even did you see the Kyle Brandt rant?
Yeah.
On NFL Network? Yeah. That was really well done. My friend Nick Wright on FS1 yesterday, he went in on the Bears. When it's this united outside the building, at a minimum, it is not unanimous in the other direction inside the building. That fair to say? Like, that there's people inside the Bears organization right now saying the same things we are. They're probably listening to this podcast right now going, yep.
Thumbs
because
up.
that type of stuff happens.
But that's okay, though.
Yeah. But I'm
you
just
need
saying,
those debates, yes.
Once that starts to happen, especially because there's a lot of people inside the building, but once it starts to trickle into like the coaching staff and the locker room, that's where there needs to be, I think, a little bit of a sense of urgency. And all of this, in my opinion, can blow up if you lose to the Bengals on Sunday.
Yeah. I think, I don't want to oversell what this game is, and I know we got to get to our 3 questions here in a minute to preview the game, but I thought some of the limitations of Andy Dalton were on full display against the Rams, right? If he doesn't, again, surprise me, and there's a lot of people in our comment sections on The Athletic saying like give Andy Dalton a chance. No, Andy Dalton's got a chance for 10 or 11 years. This is exactly who he is. You know?
Yes.
Maybe give Justin Fields a chance. I read this. I think it was Dan Orlovsky this morning talking about what type of coverages you're going to see from defenses and stuff like that, and the type of plays they're going to take away, and how it spoke to what the Rams do all the time with their safeties and playing over the top, eliminating the big plays.
You mean with Andy playing?
Yeah. No, it wasn't specifically meant directed at Andy just in general about how he thinks defensive coverages are going to play, where you're going to see less man, more shell coverages and whatnot. And I thought to myself, that is exactly why Justin Fields should be playing. For everything I keep saying on this podcast, it's the play after the play, right? When that first and second read isn't there, and you just need your quarterback to be your best playmaker on the field. Like, eventually the Bears are going to need that, and I think Andy Dalton has his limitations, and Justin Fields just gives you so much more on the field in so many different ways.
Yep. And by the way, I'm totally prepared for him to come in and have some struggles too. Like, that's going to happen. He's still a rookie. But I think everyone at this point kind of understands what the season is, and I'm just a big believer that you have to play to get the experience. There's only so much you can get on the sideline, and you just got to do it. It's got to happen. All right. Should we get to the 3 big questions?
Yeah, let's go through them quickly here. All right, number 1, Mr. Hoge. Will Khalil Mack hit the quarterback this week?
I just cannot. It's amazing that this is one of the questions. Like, this is where we're at. Could you ever imagine when the Bears traded for Khalil Mack that 4 seasons later in week 2, this would be one of the questions. Will he hit the quarterback?
Yeah, forget sacking. Hit him.
Just hit the quarterback. Will he touch the quarterback? You know, and I do also remember us talking about the way in that the day they traded him and the podcast we did, saying that, you know, probably on the back end of this contract, and there's going to come a time where it's not going to look like a great trade. I don't know if we're quite to that point, because I still think the trade is 100% defensible. But, man, he just doesn't seem like the same guy.
No, especially when you compare him to what other pass rushers are doing. Because you're not going to convince me otherwise that TJ Watt doesn't get schemed against, doesn't get chipped, doesn't have double teams to face, right? Like, and he's out there, you know, raising hell every single snap.
And by the way, I saw a video on Twitter this morning showing how Brandon Staley was able to get Joey Bosa one-on-ones.
Yes.
With this scheme.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Khalil Mack got one-on-ones, I believe.
Yes, he did. Win them. I'll say yes, he hits the quarterback.
Okay. Number 2. Can your guy, David Montgomery, surpass 100 rushing yards for the 2nd consecutive game?
I'm going to say he comes just short, but still has a good game. You know, because 41 of those yards came on one run. Yeah, he might be able to bust another one. I still look. I think David Montgomery's for real, and I think he's going to continue to have good, productive games. I'm sure he finds the end zone in this game, if I had to put my money on that. But to go 100 rushing yards again, I'm just going to side towards the under.
So the Vikings had to pass a lot. Like, I think Kirk Cousins had 50 or 49 pass attempts because they were behind.
Yeah,
they trailed the Bengals by, I think, 2 or 3 scores at one point before mounting a comeback. But Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the game, still had 20 carries against the Bengals, but he only gained 61 yards. His long was 17. So I'm with you. He flirts. I like using that word when it comes to rushing production. He flirts with 100 yards. He's obviously the Bears' identity on offense until Justin Fields takes the field, but I don't think he reaches it. Question number 3. If I can find it here. All right, question number 3. All right, Adam, let's set the over-under for Justin Fields snaps this week against the Bengals. I'm going with 6.5.
No.
Going over?
I'm taking the over on this one. I think the pressure is mounting. I think he showed he can handle it. And we also heard Matt Nagy say after the game that if they weren't in so much of a 2-minute mode in that fourth quarter, Fields probably would have played more. So that tells me that last week there was a scenario where he hits the over on the 6.5. And that's not how the game flow went. So I'm going to hit the over on this one, over 6.5 snaps.
I feel like maybe it's just the Chicagoan in me. You're just bracing yourself for disappointment, where it's just one more snap than the previous game because things don't go right when Andy Dalton's on the field. And you get the 6 snaps, and 3 of them are end the rounds to Marquise Goodwin. I'll tell you what, though. If I see another shovel pass, I'm tired of that play.
Oh, that play just doesn't work anymore, man.
Absolutely tired of that play, yes.
It wasn't working in practice.
No.
When they were running it in training camp.
No, I don't know what you like about it at this point. There's a lot of film of it. You almost know it. Like, if I know if it's coming, the defense with a week's worth of preparation knows it's coming too. That's all I'm going to say.
It's like if you motion Allen Robinson into the middle as the ball's being snapped, you should probably watch for that play.
Easy read for the middle linebacker. Just take that off the Justin Fields play sheet, please.
Can I throw in a bonus one real quick?
Go ahead.
Any scenario in this game where we see all of a sudden a quick hook, like we saw in Atlanta last year, and an actual quarterback change in the middle of the game.
If he throws 2 interceptions, if Andy Dalton throws 2 interceptions and the second one is ugly, let's not forget it took a really ugly interception by Mr. Trubisky for that quick hook of Matt Nagy to come out.
Yep. And it was a quick hook. Like, that's, to me, always been on the table here. As stubborn as they're being about this plan, we also know they really do want to play him. And
they want to win, too. Eventually,
right?
They got to try to win the game.
So if you're losing in the second quarter, you get a bad interception. Does Justin Fields come trotting out of that locker room with his helmet on at halftime? Imagine that scene at Soldier Field. That would be something. So I think there's a scenario. I'm not saying it's likely, but I do think there's a scenario.
We can't do everything from home, but Peloton delivers a workout experience that you never would have imagined was possible right in your home. Take it from me. I love my Peloton. It's right in my bedroom. I use it all the time. I just did a great 30-minute 90s rock ride with Emma Lovewell. I did an 80s rock ride the other day with Leanne Hansey. Up next, I think I'm doing a 45-minute Pearl Jam ride with Jen Sherman. Those are 3 of my favorite instructors. Peloton just offers you so much. They have quick arm, shoulder, chest, and core workouts. I do those too, often after rides. So whatever your mood is or what fitness goal is, you can mix and match classes for a total body workout experience. Choose from cardio, strength, yoga, Pilates, outdoor runs, meditation, and more. I'm telling you, it will fit your lifestyle. It's so convenient. You can sneak workouts in at any time of the day, even before taking the kids to school. So when you purchase the Peloton bike, you get access to live classes and thousands on demand, plus access to the app to get you moving anytime, anywhere. With the Peloton bike, there's nothing like working out from home. Learn more at onepeloton.com. New members can try Peloton classes for free for 30 days at onepeloton.com/app. Terms apply. That's onepeloton.com. One more time. That's onepeloton.com.
Well, summer is starting to wrap up a little bit, but the weather's still been pretty warm, and I've realized that long days and warm nights just hit different when you're well rested. That's where Brook Linen comes in. One of the coolest things about Brook Linen is that they've got so many options. They're famous for their luxe satin and classic percale sheets, but they have so much more than just sheets as well. They pair perfectly with the rest of their bedding essentials like cozy comforters, pillows, and duvet covers. And since everyone knows that summer comfort goes beyond the bedroom, they also have some serious great bath towels, robes, and beach towels too. All this high quality luxury grade comfort without the luxury price tags. It's no wonder why Brook Linen's got over 75,000 5-star reviews and counting. I got the Brook Linen sheets on my bed right now. Absolutely love them. They keep me cool at night when I'm sleeping. And I'm telling you, they are comfortable. So go on, get ready with quality comfort and get it for less at Brook Linen. Go to brooklinen.com and use promo code ADAM to get $20 off with a minimum purchase of $100. That's Brook Linen, BROOKLINEN.com, and enter promo code ADAM for $20 off with a minimum purchase of $100. That's brooklinen.com, promo code ADAM. All right, those are our 3 big questions for this week, Bears and Bengals, and we need to get some more insight on the Bengals as we do every week. So we're going to bring in Paul Dehner Jr. from The Athletic, the host of Hear That Podcast Growlin, to give us more insight here on the Bengals. Paul, Andy Dalton, you can't get away from him, huh? Here he is, and I'm sure we were just kind of joking around about how the reception is going to be a little bit different than it probably was last year in Cincinnati because he's already dealing with boos here from the Bears fans who just want to see Justin Fields.
He's probably used to that. I mean, the last few years he was here. I mean, there was people really turned and started to appreciate Andy for what he was here. But I mean, people forget the storyline right before his greatest season in Cincinnati in 2015, which he had a cast of stars all around him with A.J. Green and Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu and Tyler Eifert and Andrew Whitworth and Kevin Zeitler. Was he got booed at the baseball all-star game in Cincinnati at the pros versus Joes type game they do on the Sunday night, and he came out, he was there, and Andy Dalton, right? And everybody booed him. I know this because I was there having to cover it, and I was just trying to write some soft thing on Snoop Dogg, and next thing I know, I'm down in the locker room waiting on Andy to come out to address the fact that he got booed, and he was, of course, as nice as a human as you could ever be about it and talked very openly about, they weren't booing me when I hit those 2 home runs in that game. He was mostly proud of that. But he kind of turned that in to the greatest season he'd ever had. Like, it just doesn't – that type of stuff just doesn't really affect him. He really is good at compartmentalizing and not dealing with that, and he's dealt with stuff like that his entire career, at least while he was in Cincinnati.
So this is interesting. So I do believe that he will be booed early. There will be a chance for Justin Fields, like even before the first offensive snap. That's like one of my predictions for this week. So you think that's more motivation? Because let's be honest, since that season you mentioned, I mean, it's been pretty downhill for Andy Dalton. I mean, does he still have that type of performance in him, or does he need like the best help that he can get? Yeah,
I mean, he is the NASCAR driver that needs the perfect car. I mean, he's not going to be the driver it's not going to be Days of Thunder out there. I mean, you need to have the pieces around him for him to really succeed. I will say it's hard to be the 21st best quarterback in the world. Like, that's a hard thing to do, and that's why he has had value at places. He had it here when Marvin Lewis was still here, and he had it in Dallas even. But at the certain point, there's just an ultimate frustration in that for everybody, especially when you've already got the next guy in house. Like, you feel like you might be having Justin Fields, but I think he'll always have value. He can go out there and win you games. He's certainly going to be efficient. He's going to know the game pre-snap. He's going to get the ball out quick. He knows how to deal with bad offensive lines. All that stuff, like, he's got that, and he has had that. I think he still does. I haven't watched him very closely the last couple of years outside of when he came to Cincinnati last year and got his sort of revenge win. But I think that you can win with him. But you're ultimately always going to feel like, unless we put the perfect puzzle around him, it's never going to get you where you want to go.
So, Paul, let's talk about Andy's replacement in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow. He certainly has looked pretty good so far. And all of a sudden, he's got Jamar Chase to throw the ball to. Joe Mixon's obviously a good running back. It's like suddenly this is a pretty good offense. I mean, it's a small sample size, I guess, but I mean, how much are you buying what they did last week and what they could potentially do this week against the Bears secondary that just looked awful against the Rams? I mean, if I'm Tyler Boyd, I'm drooling over that matchup potentially against the Bears nickel.
Yeah, I actually was on our Hear That Podcast Growlin podcast we were just talking about. I said this feels like a Tyler Boyd game. You're going to see a lot of attention now paid to Jamar Chase after what he did, which is the idea in drafting him number 5 overall. Was now, T. Higgins, who was the breakout star last year at receiver, in games that Joe Burrow and T. Higgins started together last year, because it took a while for T to break in the starting lineup. If you extrapolate those 8 games over the course of a 16-game season last year, it would have been over 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. I mean, they were a great connection together once they started playing together. And the midpoint of last season, like, it was about a 4-week stretch, the Bengals led the league in points per drive. People don't realize that because Burrow got hurt, and that was the storyline after. But they were putting it together. And even in the game he got hurt against Washington, arguably one of the best defenses in the league, they'd run up 200 yards of offense, passing offense by halftime. they have the pieces that, and Burrow has had it going and had it cooking, and you add Chase doing what he did in the opener, you really see the options. It's a very real explosive offense now. They missed the over-the-top stuff. They never had that last year. They were awful, and Burrow was maybe the worst in the league throwing the ball plus 20 yards downfield. He only had one completion with 20-plus air yards for a touchdown last year, just one, and now he equaled that already in the opener. So I think they feel like they added the element they needed to really make the offense cook, and there's no reason to believe that they can't be that this year. They already did it before Burrow got hurt last year.
We know a few things about the lack of a downfield passing game here in Chicago. There was last week, we covered Trubisky, who was not good over 20 yards. Did I read somewhere that Burrow said that his knee was sore, but he feels okay?
Yeah.
So I did see that. That was alarming to me at one point. But kind of going off that, how's his protection then? Since that knee is a topic, it is sore or felt sore a couple days ago. I saw that he was sacked 5 times by the Vikings. So has that protection at all improved?
Maybe. How's that for you for confidence? I mean, look, Riley Reif is better than Bobby Hart. Okay, so we'll start there. Right tackle is much better. I mean, they were a disaster at right tackle, and Reif has brought stability. Jonah Williams looks like the number 11 overall pick he was in 2019 as far as he's charting towards that, looking for his first full healthy season. They have issues up the middle. To me, I look at this, and this is just Akeem Hicks is just scary as all get out to me, because I mean they have problems. That's where their weak spot is. Trey Hopkins gave up a couple of sacks to Michael Pierce, where he's got beat in one-on-one. Now, Trey Hopkins is okay at center, but he tore his ACL in the finale last year, and unbelievable that he worked his way back to be ready to go by the beginning of training camp, but he was eased in. He had 3 preseason snaps, and he had to go out there in the opener and play a full load, and I don't think he was, he's still not quite there. So what do you got there? You've got a weakness, and you've got 2 guards that are okay, right? I mean, and so that's where your real concern is. They had some scheme issues. It wasn't as bad as it looked. 5 sacks sounds bad, was bad. He got hit and had to hobble off at one point and get on a bike to keep himself warm, which is where the knee thing came from. But pressure percentage was middle of the pack in the NFL. I mean, it was right around 15th in the league. And guess what? They'll take that. After last year, they love that. That's kind of the goal, is if they can end the year 17th in the league in pressure percentage, this offense will cook, and they feel like it really will, if that can happen. I don't know if that's going to happen, or if you're going to see more big hits on Burrow like we kind of saw in the opener against Minnesota.
Well, from what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like the Bengals are going to be able to score some points in this game, because I think the trust in the Bears defense is close to gone now at this point. I mean, I don't think they're a bad unit, but it certainly sounds like with this offense that the Bengals are going to be able to find the end zone at least 2 or 3 times in the game. So how about the defense? Is this a defense that Andy Dalton, Andy Dalton, if he's in there throughout the whole game, is this a matchup that he can matriculate the ball down the field and do enough to keep up with what I think might be a couple more explosive plays that the Bears give up on the other side of the ball to Joe Burrow?
Well, it's not the same group he saw last year when he came in with Dallas. I mean, it's very different. I mean, I'd have to, if I actually went back and counted, I think there's maybe 4 or 5 guys that are back. I mean, they totally reformed the defensive line. They added Trey Hendrickson for $15 million, which is he was just basically a replacement for Carl Lawson. They added Larry Ogunjobi at the 3 tech, which is really, I think, under the radar, their biggest move that they made in free. He is just a force in there, and they feel like they really unleashed him. He didn't really play 3 tech in Cleveland for 4 years, but he was really explosive and disruptive, kind of playing over the nose. Well, everybody feels like this is where he belongs, and he looked it. He was dominant in the opener in every way, right up the middle. And they traded for B.J. Hill, who is a really nice rotational piece up the middle. They extended Sam Hubbard. They made a big investment in fixing that defensive line, which was last in sacks and just abysmal in getting pressure last year. And it showed. I mean, they just wrecked the entire game against Minnesota. Now, Minnesota's offensive line has its woes. I feel like we say that, every week. So many teams have these issues, but they really just dominated. They created 6 holding calls, 5 that were accepted in early on, and false starts and illegal formations because they're trying to back up off the line because they were getting beat. I mean, they were just absolutely dominant, which is the exact opposite of what they were last year. So in that respect, it's a very different defense. And they're a little bit more confident in their defensive back end because they went and got they have all new corners. Chidobe Awuzie is here now. Trey Waynes is not going to play. He still is yet to play after signing as a free agent in 2020. But, Eli Apple will start. He's their weak link. Mike Hilton is much better in the slot. So it's all new guys. I mean, so we're kind of all learning together what this defense is going to be. But for openers, they were really dynamic up front, and that was a very different thing that we've seen around here for a while.
Any other matchups that you're curious about this week? You mentioned Hicks between against the interior of the Bengals line. We mentioned Boyd, and whoever plays. I don't even think it was Marquis Christian last week against the Rams. I think it's gonna be Duke Shelley personally this time. That's a matchup to watch. Any other matchups you're looking forward to this week? And then I'm curious, where do you see this game going? What's your pick?
Yeah, I'm really interested, to see Jesse Bates. He had in the game against Dalton last year in Dallas, he had should have been interception that he just dropped right off his hands. He knows Andy really well. He's an incredible center fielder. I mean, he's one of the best safeties in the league, and certainly one of the best center fielders in the league. And if Chicago and Andy get a little frustrated by not throwing everything being underneath and try to take some shots and maybe force some shots, Jesse's the one that's going to be there, and he has known how to read Andy in the past. I'm curious to see if he'll be able to read if Chicago gets antsy or gets behind and feels like they need to throw something a little bit further, and if Bates is able to make a play and get a big pick and turn over, and that's kind of his MO back there. He's looking for that all the time and feels a lot of regret over dropping the one last year that he felt like he should have had on Dalton. So that's one that I'll watch. And as far as what I think, I mean, I really despise picking the Bengals on the road. I mean, they're 114-1 under Taylor on the road. I mean, it's like, but I got to tell you, it's weird. Year to year, things change. This team feels very different. They act differently. They are different. They finally turned over the roster. I mean, since the new coach came in, it was like they were holding on to these old pieces, and Carlos Dunlap was still here, and Geno Atkins was still here, and AJ Green was still here, and Giovanni Bernard were still here. Guys from 2015, and there was just like this holding on to the past, and they finally cut all ties and have a very young, excitable, kind of hungry out to prove themselves roster, and that's what they looked like on Sunday. It was a very different. They have a very different feel to them. I don't know if they'll handle success well. I don't know if they'll play on the road well. But I tend to bet with Burrow. The guy's got it, man. He's got it. He's got something that knows how to make everybody go the right direction, and he has no problem being the guy on 4th and an eyelash in the game, hanging in the balance, throwing it 30 yards down the field to C.J. Uzomah for the win, which he did against Minnesota, which is just kind of the dude he is. And so I'm betting with him. I have Bengals 27-20.
Well, meanwhile, I feel like we're covering the exact same team. So that doesn't bode well if you're feeling a new vibe over there in Cincinnati, because everything here is basically the same. All right, Paul, thank you so much. Really good stuff. We appreciate the insight, and we'll see how it goes on Sunday.
Yep, see you guys then.
All right, there
Thanks,
he is, Paul Dehner. You can follow him on Twitter at Paul Dehner Jr. That's spelled Dehner, host of Hear That Podcast Growlin.
This podcast is brought to you by DirecTV Stream. Does this sound familiar? You got one device that lets you catch the game live. Another lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone. You've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings you your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part? There's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Now that the world's opening back up, so many new thrills are on the horizon. And whether you've been in a relationship for years, are just getting started, or are excited to get back out there and meet new people, when the moment comes, you want to be ready. Roman ready. So go to GetRoman.com/Adam now to talk to a U.S. licensed healthcare professional. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for erectile dysfunction, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. Roman ready equals confidence, the confidence that you know you can rise to the occasion in the moment. A U.S. licensed healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, it ships to you free with 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward, convenient, and discreet. Go to GetRoman.com/Adam, and if you're prescribed, get 50% off your first month of ED treatment. Make sure you're ready to have confidence and control this year. Roman ready. Okay, Johns, so we heard it from the Cincinnati side. Paul's going with the Bengals. 27-20.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, like a significant
the new
cover.
Bengals, the new Bengals. I'm with them on the Joe Burrow conversation. We talked about this, a couple podcasts ago? Like, when I evaluate games, I start at the quarterback position. Who's got the better QB in terms of making my picks, right? And I take Joe Burrow over Andy Dalton. I mean, who wouldn't?
Well, the Bengals would.
Yeah, they did. They definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah.
They literally did, and then they said goodbye to Andy. They were just ready to play the kid. How about that? Like, for a side storyline, the Bengals didn't see value in playing Joe Burrow behind Andy Dalton. Yeah, that was the thing. Meanwhile, different story here in Chicago, Adam.
That's the facts. That's 100% truth.
So I'll go first with my prediction. I agree with a lot of what Paul just said. And I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow. I loved him coming out. I was a huge fan of Jamar Chase coming out. Drafted him in my fantasy league this year. I'm probably going to play him this week, considering the matchup. I think the Bengals are going to score points. And I don't know that the Bears can keep up with Andy Dalton. Now, I do think the matchup's a little bit different here. It's not going to be quite as much too high, keep everything underneath. I think with what we saw, the pressure is totally on Matt Nagy. He has to adjust, and they got to at least try to go downfield a little bit more. What I wonder, though, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, now Dalton's pretty good at taking care of the football. Will that result in some riskier throws that end up in turnovers? It's a possibility. So, look, as all I can go off of is the plan I think is going to be in place, which is Dalton starting. I do think Justin Fields maybe sees a few more snaps. But with it the way it is, I like the Bengals. I think it'll be a little bit closer. And I think I'll say 24-20, somewhere in that same area. Maybe 23-20. Let's go 23-20.
What's your bold prediction within that?
What's my bold prediction within that? That I think Justin Fields scores another touchdown. Is that bold?
No,
I mean,
yeah. Well, even
to
if
do
it
it 2 weeks in a row with limited snaps, I think.
Yeah,
it's
even if
still
it's
bold.
7 or 8 snaps. Okay. Well, if that happens,
But here's the thing: can I put in one caveat?
okay.
I think if they make the switch to Justin in the middle of the game, I think the Bears win. So, does that make sense?
Yeah. Here's my bold prediction, Adam. Well, that would be a bold prediction if Justin Fields actually takes the field, leads them to victory. But that's more like a dream scenario.
Yeah. By the way, that wasn't my bold prediction.
Yeah.
I'm saying that if that scenario plays out where they actually do make a switch in the middle of the game, then my prediction changes to the Bears winning.
Okay. My bold prediction is, even though I agree with everything that Paul just said, just in terms of Andy Dalton and his limitations, what Jesse Bates may do to him to bait him into interception, even. Use it that way. See how I did that?
I did.
I think the Bears' defense, at this point, here's just a general bold prediction. The Bears defense plays better. They play well enough to win because I think everybody is just writing them off right now.
They better play better. It's not that it wouldn't be that hard.
Well,
that's not bold.
But I think that's the bold prediction here because everybody thinks they're done. I don't think they're done yet. If they sting it up in this game, then okay, they're done. Stick the fork in them, all that.
They gave up 8.7 yards per play last week if you take the kneel downs out. Like, it would be impossible to play worse.
Yes. But people still think, you just said they're going to score points. The Bengals are going to score points.
Well, yeah, but I think both can be true. I think the Bears can play better defense and still give up points.
Oh, is this a bold prediction? They only give up 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
So the Bears defense only gives up 2 touchdowns. Okay. So I'm going to take the Bears 20-17.
Bold predictions.
So you got the Bears winning.
I got the Bears winning. Except if it doesn't happen here, I think Justin Fields definitely starts in week 4.
What happens in week 3? They just punt on the Browns?
They do.
We're going to Cleveland, and we're just going to lose. We're going to be 0-3. All right. Woo.
Like to see him get his hands on more balls.
All right. Let's get to some other games. How does that sound? It's a sneaky good one. Fox, noon. 49ers at Eagles. Eagles look pretty good in week 1. Jalen Hurts looked pretty good in week 1. That was a little bit of a surprising development. Not many people high on Philadelphia right now, including myself. But I have liked Jalen Hurts, as I've made very clear on this podcast. So, good matchup. I think the 49ers are a good team, though. And they certainly showed that until they pretty much decided to stop playing in the last 6-7 minutes or so against the Lions last week when they nearly gave up what would have been one of the more remarkable, crazy comebacks in NFL history had the Lions been able to get the ball one more time and maybe score. But I think the 49ers are a little too good here. I think this is going to be a good game, but I think the 49ers win and probably just barely cover that 3, like maybe win by 4, like 24-20 or something like that.
So when I was compiling these games, this one stood out to me because I do think both teams are pretty good, even the Eagles with, the new young quarterback, but that's the part of the point, too. I put them on. You have the 49ers who have the same plan for Trey Lance, their young quarterback, and you have Jalen Hurts taking over for the Eagles. So, young quarterbacks, put them in the conversation. That's why I like this game. I'm taking the 49ers by like a touchdown. I do think overall they're the superior team, and I think their defense will give Hurts problems this week, even though I do think, actually, I fully believe Jalen Hurts is going to be a pretty darn good starting quarterback in the NFL.
There's some unfamiliar area or infamiliar, whatever that word is, non-familiar.
Fox. Not John Fox.
You've not played that one in a long time.
I know.
I forget how it just stops abruptly at the end.
There's some unfamiliar area or infamiliar area, whatever that word is, non-familiar.
There's been a lot of complaining about Matt Nagy's press conferences lately and how he just says a lot of words and like, I'll still take that any day over.
Yes, 100%.
Over,
I mean, I can't answer that. I mean, it's like, I don't know, horse racing.
Just saying things. Horse racing.
What? It's like horse racing?
No.
Vikings at Cardinals.
3:05 on Fox. The Cardinals are a 3.5-point favorite. This is an interesting spread because the Cardinals look really good. They go into Tennessee and dominate the Titans, a good football team. The Vikings did not look good, and you'd think this would be more than 3.5 based on what you saw in week 1, but obviously Vegas is not overreacting too much here. And, as you typically have in week 2, there are some corrections made, right, and it probably narrows the gap a little bit on both sides. But, and the Vikings seem to have some issues. Offensive line, Kyler Murray, man, he looked really good. That offense was clicking. So maybe I'm walking into a trap here, but I think the Cardinals win.
Yeah.
And probably cover the 3.5.
Yeah, I'm with you. Cardinals by a touchdown. Some of the plays that Kyler Murray made last week were just phenomenal. reasons why I want to see Justin Fields play. Just the things he could do. Again, beyond the play. Cardinals by a touchdown.
Was, kind of unusual about Brian was he kind of played like a monster, man, in New Mexico.
CBS 325, Cowboys at Chargers. Another fun game. Man, there's some fun teams out there.
Chargers and Cowboys.
The Bears could be a fun team if they played Justin Fields.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying. The Cowboys, you got Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert. Man, Herbert's just... You see the Chargers, my guy Rashawn Slater, they put out a highlight video on Monday of their left tackle. How funny is that? But also real, like legit highlights. That's how good he played in his first game.
It was against Chase Young, was it not?
Yes. And he was first NFL. And by the way, it wasn't the first time he faced Chase Young. Remember what we talked about Rashawn Slater all throughout the draft was that game against Ohio State in 2019 where he shut Chase Young down. So that's why they drafted him. And he looked pretty good. So, the Chargers got something cooking there. And that defense with Brandon Staley, again, we talked about earlier, he found a way to get Joey Bosa to the quarterback. So, I liked what I saw from the Cowboys, though, in Week 1 against Tampa. So this will be an interesting game. I want to make you pick it first. I want to see if you can influence me.
I'm going Cowboys just to cover. Chargers win. I just think they're the better overall team. Like, I still think Dallas has problems. I really do. I like Dak Prescott. You know that. They could cover, but I think the Chargers win.
Yeah, I like your pick a lot. Because the thing is that the Chargers get that win, but I don't think I think Washington's a good team, not a great team, but they lose their starting quarterback in that game, and it's still close. It really took an Antonio Gibson fumble. You and I were sitting there actually watching that game together in Los Angeles before the Bears game, and so it wasn't. I'd actually say the Cowboys look better than the Chargers, like as a full team in Week 1. Herbert's obviously very good, so I think the Chargers probably pull this out at home, but agree that it'll be close enough that the Cowboys cover.
You're not listening, Chris.
Sunday night on NBC, 7:20, the Chiefs go to Baltimore. And the Ravens already 0-1. The Chiefs were nearly 0-1 with their first game against the Browns. The Ravens are a 3.5-point home dog here at night. Tough place to play in Baltimore at night. A little bit of history here, though. And I've walked into this a couple times, I think, where I've picked the Ravens in this matchup. And then the Chiefs just go in there and win relatively easy. So I'm not going to do it again this time. Give me Kansas City.
100% with you. It's going to play out like last week. Ravens look good for a period of time. The Chiefs' defense figures it out, and Patrick Mahomes just does Patrick Mahomes-like things. And like a 10-point lead by the Ravens becomes like a 4-point deficit, like within 2 possessions. That's how it plays out usually when you play Patrick Mahomes. So give me the Chiefs covering in this.
Bears.
Aaron Rodgers, Monday Night Football.
You, Aaron Rodgers.
7:15 on ESPN. Lions at Packers. How's this for a week 2 matchup? They're just like, we got to knock down this Dan Campbell guy. He's too entertaining. We got to get at least one game with Dan Campbell, but we better do it early because this is not a good football team. Hey,
No.
The Lions almost came back on the 49ers, but man, if you watched that was such garbage time. Packers 11 point. When's the last time a Monday Night Football game had a double-digit spread?
And you know Aaron Rodgers is going to cover this, right?
Actually, it probably happened last year. I feel like there was a game where didn't the Bucks play the Giants like in the middle of the season last
late
year on Monday Night Football, and I think they were like a 13-point favorite or something like that. All right, so Lions at Green Bay, 11 points.
No, I'm taking the Packers. 11 points is a lot of points. But you know how this is going to play out. Like, Aaron Rodgers does not have bad back-to-back games, especially not as awful as he was in Week 1. He's not going to be that bad. He's going to be great. He's going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's going to throw 4 touchdown passes. Jared Goff can't keep up. Give me the Packers by 2 touchdowns.
Bears.
I don't love it, but mainly it's probably because I'm angry that I locked up the Packers last week and they just made me look like an idiot. But I agree. I think think the Packers at home on Monday night, they fix some things. This Lions team, not great. Maybe they come back and do the backdoor cover thing. But you know what? The crazy thing about that comeback last week for the Lions is they still didn't cover. They still lost by 8. The spread was 7.5. So even after all of that against the 49ers at home, they still did not cover. So I think that's a good reason to take the Packers here. So
And the Lions stink.
Do I dare lock up the Packers 2 weeks in a row?
No.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
No, I'm actually going to lock up the Chiefs, though.
I'm going to lock up the Cardinals.
There you go.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
All right. Well, we're split on the Bears game. It'll be interesting. I think both during the game and then afterwards, depending on how it all plays out. Certainly will be interesting. Soldier Field. It's going to be a nice day.
It will be. It'll be hot.
Hot day.
90s, they say. Tracy Butler, Channel 7, ABC, 90-degree day.
Seems like a nice day to play your rookie quarterback. Just saying. Just saying that, you know, the sun will be out, the skyline, you know, all this stuff they talk about Soldier Field on the lakefront and how great it is, blah, 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 blah. You know, why don't you make the product on the field look better?
That's 2 podcasts in a row where blah, 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 blah has been
there's
part
been
of
a lot
our
of blah,
analysis.
blah, blah lately.
Yes, we need to get over the blah.
A lot of blahs. A lot of blah, 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 and I think people are getting sick of it. My goodness. All right, follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Johns. Should mention our voicemail line. Remember, make sure you write this number down. 872-221-0046. We will tweet it out during the game, but if we remember to, we try to. And thanks to our great producer, Kent Garrison, does a great job, not only with those voicemails every week. They were pretty good this week. Got some tweets about that. They were good. And he also does a great job putting this podcast together every single time. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube. Find our YouTube channel, Hoge Jahns. Subscribe. Hit the notification button. We appreciate you doing that. T-shirts are up on obviousshirts.com. Some good ones. Make sure you get that Walking Bear logo. It's pretty sweet. Follow us on Twitter. Read us, NBCSportsChicago.com for me, TheAthletic.com/Hoge Jahns for Johnsy, the Fishman, and all that. Any final thoughts?
No. That's it.
No.
Revenge game, everybody.
Revenge. He already had the revenge game. Now it's just the
You know I'm kidding.
blah, blah, blah game.
See ya.
Justin Fields